Our goal is to preserve information from an archaeological site. We extract that information out, we learn what we can from it, but we also want to preserve that in our museums and our institutions. And the goal is really to tell the story of the distant past. We're working on a site out on the Middle Loop River, deep in the middle of the Sandhills, that was occupied maybe in the mid-1600s by a group of what became the Apaches. Pre-contact Native American people, they deserve to have their story told. And really, there's kind of only two ways. There's their own oral traditions, which are very rich, and there's archaeology, which is taking materials that were left behind and trying to piece together a story about how these people lived. First thing is mapping. We'll set up a grid of these 1 meter squares.
So this is a total station. We use it to measure the exact coordinates of the different pits that we're uncovering.
It's to have it in a map and have the exact location. So if in the future we want to come back and see where we excavate it, we have it in the map and we know the exact location of the pits.
If you can imagine a grid of 1 meter squares imposed across this landscape behind me. That's what we do. And each square has a number.
The second step is to start excavating. For this site, we've chosen 10 centimeter levels.
Right here, we are working on level 3 of our unit, and we're just trying to get it down to level. We're going down about 10 centimeters here.
We're using shovels, trowels, dustpans, and buckets. We're using line levels and measuring tape to make sure we're going down evenly all over the unit.
I hope that we can get this entire area like a cross section, because we can know that there is a house. I'm curious to see how big and what it looks like, and to find some more post holes.
The soil is really good at telling you a lot of things. There's a house here. There was a house here, okay? The house is no longer here, but the floor of the house is here, and some of the timber that was the roof and the walls. And we are right at the edge of it, and the soil colors are what kind of tell us that. This light tan yellow, that's the natural subsoil. This material is dark because it's got a bunch of burned stuff in it, these burned timbers. That's a shallow pit, and you can see different layers of things they've thrown in there, and charcoal, and there's like a turtle shell. Yeah, right there, that's an upside down turtle shell. And it's at the top of this pit, so it's one of the last things they probably threw in there.
The process of archaeology is a process of destruction. As we're excavating this ground, say this 1 by 1 meter unit right here, we're seeing stuff, but we're removing it as we go. So we have to create this record of what we're seeing as we're going, so that someone in the future can come back and look at our records and be able to understand exactly what we were seeing, or to the best extent possible.
I am making a record of all the photos I've taken around the site and of the crew. All the details from direction we shot it, time we took it, day we took it, and kind of a general caption of the subject matter. It's another level of record keeping. I'm sure you've noticed that we all take pretty detailed notes, do a lot of drawings. Photos is just one more element of that.
We are mapping the excavation unit. So we take photographs of all of our excavation units. Well, photographs sometimes can miss things. We want to make sure to map everything in as carefully as we can. And then back in the lab, because these are so accurately measured, we can digitize them. And then what you can actually do is stitch together all of these different excavation units. And so this is a really careful, detailed way in order to give us a picture later of what was in this unit.
This is our water screening operation, and all the sediment that we're collecting from the floor of this 400-year-old house, we're washing it through gently with water. And at the bottom of the screen is a residue of charcoal, animal bones, pottery fragments, plant remains. Dry them out. When it gets dried out, we bag it up and take it back to the lab in Lincoln.
We're hoping to leave with just a better understanding of what this site is, who was here, what were they doing, and so next is the long process of analysis and taking care of curation after that.
People think that archaeology is just digging stuff up, and that's all it is. In fact, that's probably, in terms of time expended, the smallest part of it. We're out here for 2 weeks. It's going to take a year to get all this stuff analyzed and studied.
On this project, we partnered with the University of Nebraska, Lincoln, and the University of Iowa to clean, count, and catalog the artifacts we found. The next step is to analyze them.
We can answer more questions about what they ate because we get small animal remains, like we're getting lots of turtle. The little tiny pieces of flint can tell us a little more about how they were making stone tools and manufacturing and resharpening that we may not have known. If you recover stuff well, using the most modern techniques, you're not only going to be able to answer your questions, but you're going to be able to have the data available for those that come after us that have new research questions and new techniques.
For example, 20 years ago, extracting DNA out of hundreds of year-old animal bones was like science fiction.
Now it's science fact. They're doing it. So there could be information in here that we haven't even thought of.
This just gives us a snapshot of when Dismal River people were living here in kind of central and western Nebraska and what activities they were doing. If they were hunting bison or pronghorn, or if they were, making turtle shell bowls or whatever it is that they were doing. This gives us really good context of recreating those activities both within the houses and outside of them.
The more information you have, the more you can tell, the better story you can tell. So we're just hoping for an enhanced understanding of the lifestyle of these Plains Apaches that lived all over the Sandhills. I think we can learn a lot about what their life was like out here.
What I love most about this excavation is finding out what people were doing here in Nebraska earlier.
You never know what you're going to find in the next load. Every once in a while you'll find like a beautiful arrow point or something like that you're not expecting.
I think just finding stuff and knowing that people were using that 1,000 years ago and get to hold it in your hand for the first time.
Uncovering that surface that people had lived on and no one has seen for 100 years or in some cases 2,000 years, to me is real exciting.